Four words every writer loves to hear at least once in his life: 1 million copies sold. But hearing that after 4 months of the publication of your second book is often unexpected. Jordan Peterson, the writer of 12 Rules for Life, however, had the bliss of experiencing this moment, as his publication completely exploded, dominating bestseller lists around the globe. For this book, Peterson spent years collecting and refining the ideas that would create a sort of blueprint for a good life. It kind of paid him back in the form of millions of views and followers on social media and, of course, 1 million copies sold. But did he just strike the right nerve at the right time, or did he actually discover how we should rule our lives? With thousands of people messaging him how the books changed their lives, chances are good that it's the latter. But let's find out more, as we have simplified it for you in this video. In this video, we have listed down personal stories, anecdotes, and the 12 principles to live a life filled to the brim with integrity, contentment, and joy, as explained in the book. Therefore, I suggest you watch the video till the end. The book suggests the fundamental rule is that we must each take responsibility for our own lives. Get our lives in order and do the best for ourselves, our society, and the world at large. Only then will we be able to discover the true extent of our potential and resilience while helping mankind to thrive collectively. So let's get started. Rule number 1: stand up straight with your shoulders back. The rule number 1 for life is to be open to the world and be confident and fearless. The fearsome and stressed die early. All animals, including humans, are governed by dominance hierarchies and involuntary biochemical responses. We've been battling for dominance. For instance, during a confrontation, 2 lobsters estimate their competition by comparing their bodies and chemical secretions, which signal their health, strength, and mood. Dominant lobsters have higher serotonin levels, demonstrate greater confidence, a better posture, and can fight longer. That is why an alpha lobster typically wins without even having to fight physically. This is an ancestral phenomenon, but our brain recognizes it too. In us, it manifests in a way that people with high self-esteem transmit a sense of security and confidence, which makes them more attractive and respected. Higher serotonin levels are associated with greater resilience, happiness, health, lifespan, pro-social behavior, and leadership. On the contrary, people who are insecure have low self-esteem. They exhibit poor decision-making and fail to mobilize their resources. Therefore, to live longer, you should act and look confident. When you feel confident, then you will look confident. People will take you seriously, and this goes on to form a vicious cycle. Rule number 2: treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. It goes against the very famous saying, "Love others as you would yourself," but it is reversed for good purpose. We tend to neglect ourselves and prioritize our loved ones. For instance, we take better care of our pets than we do of ourselves. It is funny how when our pets get sick, we strictly follow the prescription, but when it is about us, we become sluggish and easygoing. Simply, most of us are far better at helping others than helping ourselves. We often give a shoulder to someone, but when we are in sorrow or grief, we go hard on ourselves. We are always hyper-aware of our own shortcomings, become self-loathing, deem ourselves inferior to others, and convince ourselves as undeserving of self-care, kindness, or positivity. And that is why we tend to be more inclined towards others that we love. But there should be a balance between the both. This balance can be attained by avoiding extremes. You cannot be perfect, and change is inevitable. It is good to take care of others, but make yourself happy too. Take care of yourself, treat yourself kindly, and respect yourself the way you are. Rule number 3: make friends with people who want the best for you. A man is known by the company he keeps. Your company ultimately affects your personality. In fact, you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. How is that possible? Take a small example. Have you ever noticed how the things your friends say slip into your own vocabulary before you even notice it? Now you understand the fact that the more time you spend around people, the more you adopt their traits and habits, so you should be very wise in who you pick to surround you, because picking up your friends' speech patterns might be harmless, but their toxic traits or negativity can surely be penetrating and become a part of you without you even realizing. For example, many managers and professors think adding an underachiever to a group project with high performers can actually help the previous to pick a similar pace, but studies have shown that the opposite effect is more likely possible. That is why it is immensely important to be surrounded by positive people. Being with selective people doesn't mean being snobby or judgmental, but being careful about choosing your company. In this quest, you should care more about people's behavior and deeds rather than their socioeconomic status and sense of style, because they will help bring positivity to you. Rule number 4, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. The only competition you should have should be the one staring you back from the mirror. But it is very unlikely that you will stick to this principle for long because you will find yourself comparing yourself to others. Whether it's with the intent to build yourself and demean others with statements like, well, at least I did better than she did, or to bring yourself to shame with comments such as, I'll never win like she did, both these thoughts are pathetic and should be highly discouraged. The comparison should never be confused with self-criticism. Self-criticism allows you to reflect on your mistakes to better yourself and outgrow the older you, but it takes an ugly turn when it is distorted by the lens of comparison because comparison brings another person into equation. It forces us to measure ourselves on the standards of others and eliminates the moments of incremental growth that shape our journeys along the way. It finally replaces our progress with a black and white filter of either success or failure. So the best way to build yourself up is to reflect upon yourself and assess yourself against your own prior accomplishments. Are you better today than you were yesterday? You'll notice that when you compare your past with your present, you are growing at a pace that suits you, and you will acknowledge the tiny steps you take. Rule number 5, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Parenting is a complex process, and many parents often struggle with it. It is intimidating to even think how children come into the world as blank slates, and it is us who have to write on them to make them something. The famous writer Chris Niebauer asserts that building up a good child requires more than being a friend to your child. Sometimes you have to take risks, and there may also be times when your child may not even like you. But when you're focused on just being your child's best friend, you're not able to enforce rules or do the right thing. You're always occupied with making sure that your child is happy and having fun, and that is not going to produce an accommodating and adjustable adult. While it may sting, but by setting boundaries and enforcing them, you're actually doing a favor to your child. In fact, isn't it better for them to learn responsibility from a loving parent than from a society that'll be cruel and insensitive? This doesn't mean to school them in everything they do. Focus on practical, real-world rules such as showing respect, being kind, never using violence unless it is in self-defense, or being honest. And despite always enforcing things, be a helping hand and let them understand the importance of every boundary. This will be a win-win situation. You will stay friends, and they will be behaved too. Rule number 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Setbacks, suffering, and failures are inevitable in life. Many people respond to them with anger, resentment, and acts of vengeance. At the same time, others take responsibility and are transformed positively. For instance, a hurricane is an act of nature. How do you think you should respond to it? By being stubborn that you don't deserve this treatment, or by accepting the situation and taking necessary actions? The latter feels better. Instead of asking yourself life's age-old anguished mysteries, why do bad things happen to good people? You should get over this state of anger and take responsibility for your actions. That is what Peterson's 6th rule for living is all about. It encourages you to take responsibility for your own life and actions before condemning the world. It also teaches you to bring the change in the world you've always been longing for. For example, many adults who abuse children were abused themselves as children. However, the majority of people who were abused as children do not abuse their own children. It is because they make peace with what happened and devote themselves to making a positive difference. Rule number 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Greed is the thief of all joys. I'm sure you might have heard the story of a monkey who was caught by hunters when he was unable to withdraw his hand from the cookie jar because he didn't want to leave the cookie behind. To cut short, the story had a clear moral that our greed ensnares us. We see similar behavior in humans. The desire to not give up on something even knowing that it leads to negative consequences is a pretty universal trait in humans. But how can something be wrong if it makes us happy? This thought alone is the gateway to a whole lot of bad decisions. But what is the way out? Peterson suggests that our best recourse is to pursue sacrifice over instant gratification. But true sacrifice that we need to pursue in order to become kinder, happier, and more well-adjusted people is defined by the things we do for others. This shifts our attention to something very important, that is, instead of selfish, instant pleasures, it is better to give up instant gratification to volunteer and make a difference in someone else's life. Rule number 8, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. We all tend to hide the truths even from ourselves and obviously from others. According to the Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler, these are the life lies and are defined as the things we say and do to get what we think we want. It is very similar to convincing ourselves that we already know everything we need to know, but do we? Not at all. We cannot know everything, and thus it is a lie that we tell ourselves every day. Because of this, we tell ourselves that we already have the right tools for self-improvement. Resultantly, we lose all willingness to learn and grow. That is why it is very important to stop lying and tell yourself the truth. Rule number 9, assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. If you are someone who spends a lot of their time on social media, you can easily notice how it has become a hotbed of conflict and scathing criticism. It is because it is easy to criticize than sit back, think, and listen. In real-life conversations, too, we are always pushing to prove our points right and others wrong, rather than allowing others to have a say, let alone understand them. Even if you disagree with someone, there is always a way to approach conversations. The best way can be by following the simple method of listening and then summarizing to recap what you heard out loud. Rephrasing what you heard and then communicating back makes sure that you heard them right, and it also shows that you care enough to listen to what others have to say. Rule number 10, be precise in your speech. Life can be a little too complicated, but the best way out is to be as clear as possible. Sometimes when we don't understand things, it is because we are only paying attention to the details that interest or make sense to us. That is the human inclination, but it can surely make things a bit complex, and therefore, the clarity of precise language can be invaluable. It allows us to simplify the situation, and through exact terminology, we can keep our lives manageable. Whether it is about a broken car or about our body, when we articulate clear signs and symptoms, we are more able to communicate and get back control. And if you apply the same rule to more complicated phenomena such as conflicts and personal relationships, you will find it working. Untangling your feelings and emotions and articulating a problem in a simple language will help your partner understand you better. Number 11. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. What does this rule actually mean? It means not to suppress human nature, but to encourage determination and interests. For instance, it focuses on the role parents play in the life of children. It is of fundamental importance that parents guide their children in a way that they respect moral values and behave in a socially acceptable manner. So the world is more open to them in return. The rule also implies the importance of encouraging your children, which is very different from sheltering them. Encouraging them means telling them that there are difficulties in this world for everyone, whether it's an adult or children. Though they may differ for everyone has to face tough times. But at the same time, you tell them that there is something in them that empowers them and makes them capable of overcoming these tough times. With your actions and your words, you tell them that they are up for every challenge. However, there come times when you feel to hush them, for instance, when they are doing dangerous things such as skateboarding. But when you stop them from doing what they want to do, you actually interfere with their willingness to voluntarily go big or expose themselves to the risks to become stronger. They need to take risks in order to become confident and strong to inhabit the world they cannot always be protected from. So stopping them from their share of taking risks is not empathy or love, but cowardice or going against their nature. This can be very damaging for children and their psychological growth. Number 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. The final rule by Peterson conveys the meaning that the dark moments of our life should only strengthen our motivation to seek out the good in life. Explaining this, he gave the example of his beloved daughter, who had battled severe arthritis since she was 6 years old. She was in extreme pain all this time, but instead of pondering on the fact that life is unfair, he focused on the good moments even in bad times, and so should we. He said that he was greatly taken aback by his daughter's suffering. He's grateful that after years of pain, she finally found a physiotherapist. In that perspective, he advises readers to always avoid getting bogged down by sadness and to keep an eye out for even the smallest joys. Life can surely be complicated, and we waste much of our time here figuring out what we should do and how we can make the right decisions. However, Jordan Peterson expects us to learn from our lessons and mistakes of the past and live our lives through 12 simple rules that, according to him, are the antidote to chaos. Thank you for making it to the end. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you like book summary videos like this. See you soon.